Hi, good morning. This is the day 11 Daily Spark question. What experiences do I label as spiritual or psychological without examining their somatic or biological components? Well, I like this one. What experiences do I label as spiritual or psychological without examining their somatic or biological components? Pretty much everything until I became aware of the somatic or biological component. And even now, sometimes I don't notice the somatic sensations that are leading to other thought experiences or spiritual experiences, psychological experiences. So I think this is asking like what specific experiences do I label as spiritual or psychological? Sometimes, like when I do tarot readings or when I'm just out and about in daily life and something seems very synchronistic or resonates deeply, I get like really full, mostly I think mostly upper body like shippers, tingles, yeah, just like woo, goosebumps. They're sometimes very intense, and I label those as spiritual, something from beyond me that's telling me, hey, pay attention to this. And I shouldn't say beyond me, it might be deeply in me, like my intuition. And I should say it's really me in me, because that's kind of where I've landed a little bit with the spirituality in general. Is like it's all inside. There's nothing out there that isn't also in here informing me about my experiences. So you might call that intuition, knowing, whatever. And so those kind of experiences, the full body whoosh, and they don't always just come in the tingles, like the chills. They come in other things. Like the other day I had one when I closed my eyes, and this happens more infrequently than the shivers, but it happens regularly enough that I've caught on that it's a thing. When I close my eyes, there's a sensation or experience of like a wave. You know how in like movies there's a big explosion and then you see like a dramatic like wave kind of thing, but it's usually coming at me. And it's very it's not scary, it's not anything that I would put an emotion to. It's just one of those like, hey, pay attention, something's happening right now in your experience to pay attention to. So that happened the other day and reminded me, oh yeah, I got that one for a while, and then paid attention. So those experiences I tend to label as spiritual or intuitive, but I also recognize they're deeply somatic, like they're the felt sense in the body. The other ones, like I used to like label my feelings of anxiety as like when I would feel a like the kind, my anxiety kind of shows up actually mostly through my back, I think. And I don't know if it's anxiety or like discomfort. Because sometimes that discomfort shows up as like it comes all kinds of discomfort in that, like, ooh, I want to get out of my skin a little bit, and I'm having a hot flash now. Talk about somatic. So that I would label at, like, I used to not recognize those as that, and I would label it as like a mood. So for example, I'd be like, or like really attributing it to like negative mood versus like it's just an informant, it's another piece of information happening in my body, but I wouldn't really put any credence into the body part of it. It would just all went straight to like, mood, like there was something wrong with me as a person because I was feeling this way. So those are some specific examples. Hot flashes themselves have always been deeply somatic, but I would also but I would also let them affect my mood, the psychological aspect of me. Now it's just like, oh, here we go again. Let's ride this out. Let's remove the sled. And they're not always this big, and they're sometimes bigger. So each one, sometimes they're so intense. Like this, it happened in the shower this morning, but because I was in the shower and didn't recognize it as a hot flash right away, this is actually a pretty decent example, I think. I immediately thought like something in me shifted into a negative mindset, like, and not like overtly, but like it was almost like something unaware to me came into my mind that felt like a negative rumination almost. There was like a cloud. Let's just call it a cloud passed over, because I couldn't quite define it or couldn't attribute it to any particular thing I was thinking about. But all of a sudden, a cloud moved over, and before I like went too far, like grabbed onto that cloud and was like, oh, I was like, oh, that's interesting. Oh, now, okay, hot flash. Yes, got it. And so that reminds me that, like, not to grab onto the cloud, because, like, and it was in the shower, so it was like obscured. It wasn't like I recognized it as the somatic part of this, the component right away, because it was the water was blending it all together, and I couldn't tell the warm water. All I knew was like a cloud was passing over my psyche. And then I was like, the other sensations started to be more prominent, be above the water sensation. And I was like, okay, yeah. And now I'm like, okay, cool. I'm not in a bad mood. I'm not ruminating on something. It just felt like, oh yeah, I know this sensation. And I wonder, because I do somatic experiencing work with clients, that some people seem to have great awareness over what's happening in their bodies, and some people it's just 100% or maybe 99% mind, until something major, like big, is happening in the body. And we are all on a spectrum of noticing. And it makes me wonder, what else am I not noticing, and therefore attributing to spiritual or psychological, experiences, without examining, okay, the body. And because I do somatic work, I'm deeply interested in and fascinated by noticing sensation. I was noticing one this morning, and I think I'm not going to go into detail because it's very personal. That's ridiculous. All I do is share personal stuff on this. So my form of food, my relationship with food, and I've explored where this comes from, like from way back, like scarcity, and what else? So I said I wasn't going to go personal, but I called myself out, so I'm going to do it anyway. So, because that's where all the good juice is. I might learn something new about myself. So, but this morning I was noticing a sensation in my stomach area of my abdomen. And a few years ago, I had a dramatic one, a sensation that I moved through, and there was a huge release, a somatic release, and I think a big healing, actually, with emotional stuff tied to my stomach. Well, pay attention when the body whispers so that you don't have to let it scream at you, is what went through my mind this morning. So I was like, it was like a little whisper sensation of discomfort in my stomach, but I hadn't like eaten anything, like overeaten, and that's the overeating. Like eating too much at one sitting has been a problem for me in my life, and I think it goes back to like my childhood, where oftentimes I think people say that's like due to food scarcity, or like it's a feeling of safety, and like I'm comforting myself in a place where there was no, and I've expressed this before, there was like no real safety around me at many times. And I remember a lot of memories revolve around a lot of negative memories revolve around like the dining or kitchen table, and like there, and then weird family stuff all surrounding like food and food preparation, and there, so it goes way back. Even though now I'm like, I don't have food scarcity, and now I'm more aware, self-aware, not at the like, oh, but like I'm more self-aware than I was. So I pay attention to things more in my experience. And I'm like, why is this still happening periodically where I feel the need to self-soothe through eating more than is comfortable? And it's not like binge where I'm just gonna like purge, but it's sometimes enough where I'm like, I could have stopped 5 minutes ago and I would have been fine. And oftentimes I've been exploring, like, all I need is like several little high nutrition type little things throughout the day, and I'm like, man, I'm not even hungry. My body must be eating the right thing. So anyway, I'm on a journey this year of exploring what's the right amounts of which types of things feel good in my body. Not that you should do this because science, blah, 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 blah. I've taken all that in, and now I'm making it personal. So this morning when my little sensation kicked in of like little discomfort and I hadn't overeaten, I was like, okay, let's go into that. So I put my awareness there to see like, what is this trying to tell me? And then I was like, okay, it was like and then I had a couple weird synchronistic things this morning at breakfast. So I was like, oh, so I'm like paying attention to the somatic part of like when putting stuff, like the connection. And so it's anything. This isn't woo-woo stuff. This is like whatever you pay attention to is where you're going to gain more insights. And when you don't pay attention to something, the insights aren't going to come, right? It's like basic stuff. So I'm paying attention to that this year. So I'm noticing, sensation related to my movements and actions and my thoughts, and like I'm finally, there's like a ping pong, like bing bing, making connections because I set an intention this year and I keep focusing on it, and of course things are gonna happen. So that's me like tying that whole thing this morning to this somatic or biological component, whereas before I may have labeled that as like, I feel crappy in my body, I am in a bad mood now. Like everything used to go to just, what a bummer, you know what I mean? Like attributing, and it was just like basic, I just don't feel good in my body. I am not a bad person. I am not a whatever person, like identifying with the mood that was set off by physical discomfort. And so that's why I like to do this practice with people, is because it can be very logical, like very grounded stuff to bring us back into well-being through noticing, through focus and noticing what's going on in here. And then that can bubble up into the psychological and spiritual and meaning making, versus like going straight to meaning making and bypassing the physical, because we're physical beings. Of course there's stuff happening here. So like when my body feels heavy, you know what I mean? Like if I've been overeating and I'm too big, then like for my comfort level, I feel heavy in my body and I just feel down, you know, and then I'm self-shaming about all the things. But I used to not notice the heaviness in my body. I used to just feel kind of crappy all the time. So anyway, long-winded, but that's those are my specific experiences I label with, or used to label, and still probably do label without exploring the somatic or biological. But I feel like we are biological creatures. We are somatic creatures. So I think more often than not, things are going to come in through the body because we're conditioned to like be in a body. There are a lot of people who are not so embodied and kind of live up here, or highly spiritual people, and maybe they're way connected into another realm. I love all possibilities. And so a lot of times that whole, like in the spiritual community, you get a lot of like people saying, you need to ground yourself. You need to stay grounded. Like everybody's trying to ground. And a lot of us come from a very grounded, heavy existence. And we want to be uplifted. And so it's like, don't, no, I'm already grounded. I'm like way grounded. I need to unground a little. Like we're all in some different, like on this whatever spectrum or whatever dimension, like we're not all the same and we don't all need the same things. And so with this, I would want to flip it around also and say, what experiences do I label as somatic or biological without examining the spiritual or psychological? Because we all are living at different dimensions, different frequencies, if you will, vibrations. We don't all need the same things. Are you more up in your head and like wee and lofty and like spiritual, or are you more like, let's get down to brass tacks? Brass tacks. I don't even know what that's all about. Let's get down to bait. Let's stay grounded. Let's be real. Let's like real talk. Like what is in our lived experience versus like spiritual land of like possibilities and like exploring these. So that I would want to kind of flip this around, because I have oftentimes lived in a very grounded, down to earth, Midwest existence, and we're kind of bred that way here for the most part, you know what I mean? So it's like, I'm talking 80-20 rule, not everybody. So like sometimes I want to get a little woo-woo to like shake my grounded self up a bit, Okay, I gotta go, my client's almost here. So anyway, maybe think about this question from both sides and see what comes up for you, because yeah, when I flipped it, I was like, wait a minute, I do live in my body quite often, maybe a little too often, when I want to like elevate into the spiritual and the idealistic world once in a while, because it's the both and. It's balance, baby. It's like, I feel better when I'm a whole person, like exploring the full spectrum and all the dimensions. Bye.